9 times out of 10, when folks say, who is your target audience, people will recite demographics. So their age, their, maybe their income, sexual orientation, gender, religion, veteran status, abled status, like all of that. But they may miss, or it's at least important to remember not to miss, that your audience also lives in different places, and that impacts their buying decisions. So their geographic location. And then there's their psychographics, what they value, what they believe in. And lastly, it's their behavioral data. What do they already buy into? What are they already making their investments in? Those 4 segments will clearly define who it is that you're going after. Hey, I'm Brianna Régine, an award-winning brand growth strategist for entrepreneurs and decision makers who feel stuck and are ready to get strategic about reaching their next level. But let's be clear. In this podcast, we ditch the highlight reel and get into the raw, real stories of what it takes to build a brand from the people making it happen. No more perfect perceptions of success, no more unrealistic expectations, no more feeling powerless. This is your go-to space for the real deal Holyfield about business growth, full of obstacles, funny stories, real talk, self-reflections, hot takes on current events, and must-have tips. If you've got a fresh idea brewing, you're a sucker for new strategies and insights, or you need to be reminded of how freaking dope you are, this podcast is for you. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brand Unveiled podcast. I am your host, Brianna Régine, and today we are going to be talking about, I can't even give the whole spiel. This is the second time I'm recording this, you guys. The part about the Brand Unveiled is the honesty and the rawness. This is my second time recording this because the first time, apparently, this lovely microphone wasn't clicked on in the right setting. So only my beautiful face was showing up, but there was no audio. So we're going to breathe in and we're going to breathe out. And that, my friends, is entrepreneurism personified. Entrepreneurialism personified. Entrepreneurship personified. The second round may be a doozy. Okay, stick with me, guys. Stick with me. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about what's an effective communication plan and essentially why your organization, your brand, your company will continue to be invisible if you don't focus on having one, revisiting the one that you have, updating the one that you have. It is essential because a communications plan is meant to guide you. It's meant to articulate clear objectives and clear actionable steps. In other words, a communications plan helps you talk to who it is that is meant to be receiving your message in ways that they can understand and resonate with it. So it's who you're speaking to and how you're speaking to them. And there are 4 core aspects of a communications plan that I want to share with you today. It might be a reminder. It may be an aha moment. It may be the very first time you're hearing this. These 4 elements of the plan are not exhaustive, but my goal is to always have digestible takeaways that you can start right then and there. Like as soon as you're done listening to the podcast episode, you can go ahead and take some action. So the first part of your comms plan is your target audience. And when I say that, I'm referring to the 4 segments that make up a target audience. 9 times out of 10, when folks say, who is your target audience, people will recite demographics. So their age, their maybe their income, sexual orientation, gender, religion, veteran status, abled status, like all of that. But they may miss, or it's at least important to remember not to miss, that your audience also lives in different places, and that impacts their buying decisions. So their geographic location. And then there's their psychographics, what they value, what they believe in. And lastly, it's their behavioral data. What do they already buy into? What are they already making their investments in? Those 4 segments will clearly define who it is that you're going after. And it also helps you with creating audience persona profiles, audience stories, so you can literally put a name to an individual that encompasses all of these different segments, so you clearly know their pain points, what keeps them up at night. You can know what their hobbies are, what music they like, what do they do during the summers, right? In order to position yourself in front of them and as the best solution to their problem. The second aspect of a comms plan is your competitive analysis and your market research. You want to make sure that you are positioning yourself in a way that is not going to oversaturate the market or just be a complete miss to your target audience. And the only way you're going to be able to know that is to take a look at how your competitors have been communicating their key messages and taking a look at how consumers are responding to that via social listening. So taking a look at comments on different social media platforms of particularly the profiles of your target audience, looking at their reviews, maybe doing focus groups, things of that nature. And when I look at competitors, I typically look at them in a range. So I'll start on a group of competitors that are kind of like lookalikes to my client's brand. So similar audience sizes, similar engagement, if I can determine that at the time of doing the market analysis, looking at maybe PR coverage, media coverage that they would have received, or any PR related initiatives that they would have received, any influencers or celebrity voices that are advocating for them. Like, I look at all of that in the context of they provide a similar solution to my client's brand. Then I look at what would be deemed as bigger competitors who are maybe located in a bigger city. They've had more impact, and they're sort of like a goalpost for where my client could go. Or sometimes it reveals that although they may be bigger, quote unquote, the client doesn't want to be like them at all. But that's still information that lets us know how we can define their message. And that's why market research is so important, because it brings you to the third part of the comms plan, which is the key messaging. What are those narratives that you're going to put out there now that you know who it is that you're talking to, and sort of what they've already been fed before, what they've already been privy to before. And in this section of the plan, it probably couldn't hurt to think through crisis communication a little bit, even if it's not a completely different crisis communication plan, just a checklist of what do we do if our narrative starts to go the opposite of, what it is that we want to say. Like, how do we gain our narrative back, essentially? And the last part of a communications plan, an effective communications plan, are the channels where the key messaging will live. How will you meet your target audiences in the middle? What platforms do they use? Do they use social media? Which social media platforms do they use? Do they prefer to receive your messages via newsletter? Do they prefer to see your messages in person at speaking engagements, through brand partnerships and activation? Is it in a particular publication or a podcast that they prefer to receive your messages? You really want to think through what those channels are in order to not only reach your audience, but also resonate with your audience. Okay, so those are elements of an effective communications plan. Now, just to drive this point home, I would think that having gone through some of those essential elements, you're like, okay, yeah, I should probably either create this plan or revisit the one that I have or use it more often, update it, whatever the case may be. But just in case you're like, calm, schmom, whatever, I want to emphasize that having a communications plan for your brand enables you to be proactive versus reactive. If you have a plan in place that you're actually implementing, it'll keep your narratives fresh. It'll keep you timely. It'll keep you relevant. It will increase your chances of virality, even though I don't think that should be a metric of success. I do think that a communications plan can be the guide to have all of the vehicles of communication working together strategically in order to, generate the buzz that you're looking for. A communications plan also creates a level of synergy and cohesiveness. So everyone that's pushing out these messages works as one band, one sound, And this is key, particularly if you have individuals within your brand kind of working in silos. And I'm kind of nudging the marketing folks a little bit. So the ones that are focusing maybe on like the graphic design and the content creation and the video editing and the newsletters maybe and the ads and the sales. Like the marketing people should be talking to the comms people, the folks that are doing the public relations, the crisis management, the talent relations, the brand partnerships, etc., etc. But that's a whole nother episode, why they should be talking to each other. But they should be. And if they're not talking to each other as much as they should be, at the very least, they should be pushing out the same messaging. Okay? That's really, really important. And without that level of cohesiveness, you're going to risk confusing your audience, spending money and time that are not being used effectively, and also taking the risk of like not only confusing your audience, but making them feel like they're not heard, because there's so many different messages that they're receiving, not only in words, but maybe like visually too. And that could delay them becoming longtime customers, which brings me to the third reason why comms plans are so important for brands. And that's because you want to create brand advocates within your target audience. And the only way that that can be done is if they feel like they too can recite your message, your value proposition, your solution to their friends and their peers and within their networks. And when that happens, there's a level setting that takes place where the efforts that internally you're putting out there in order to get your message across to your target audiences meets with your target audiences also pushing out those messages. So you as a company don't have to do so much heavy lifting, because you can lean on your target audience doing some of the spreading and dispersing of your message for you, which is a really, really, really good thing to have. So hopefully from this episode, you took away something that triggers off in your brain. Okay, I need to prioritize my communications plan, because that's going to be the way where my message not only goes out there, but it continues, like it's sustained, right? That's really the goal too, because I think sometimes we can create plans and then we implement it for a little bit and then we kind of forget about it. But it's important to use that guide consistently so that way you can see results over time. If you found this episode helpful in any way, please leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment about the most resonant takeaway. If you know someone in your circle or your network that could use this episode either as, like I said, an aha moment or a motivation to keep going because something in this episode is the key to their current problem, please share it with them. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things. Leave a review if you have not yet. Subscribe to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and the YouTube channel. It helps with the numbers. And I will see you guys back next week. Bye.